Welcome back to Raising Ausome. I'm Keely. I'm a part of the social media team, and I'm also a behavior interventionist here. And today I am here with Angela.
Hi,
She's
guys.
an RDI consultant, and today we're going to be answering some questions that you guys had that we put on our Instagram account, and also some frequently asked questions I feel like we get all the time.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Let's jump in.
Question 1, how can I look after my own mental health while parenting a child on the spectrum?
Okay. So, as we know, families, typically 90% of families who have just received an autism diagnosis for their child are in a state of crisis. So, the fact that we know we need to take care of our mental health is a priority. We need to. And it's very similar to that idea of when you're on an airplane and they tell you put your own oxygen mask on before you put on your child or helping others, because you need to be able to help yourself and be in a regulated state first before you can help your child.
Absolutely.
So focusing on mental health is very, very important.
I love that, because how can you help and regulate somebody else or try and regulate somebody else if you're not regulated yourself?
Yeah, and so there's different ways that you can do that, trying to focus on relationships. So one of the first things we do is if you have a spouse, is making sure you guys are connected, because you're a team and parenting is teamwork. And so making sure that you're both on the same page is a very important part. And it's a huge focus for us when trying to move you out of crisis mode. Another great way is to engage with things that spark joy in your life. So for me, I turned to pottery. I started doing pottery on the wheel, and for me it was so therapeutic. It was such a release to be literally playing with clay. And that was something that I was able to do for myself to kind of help me through this journey. And it was something I did for myself. It wasn't that I had to do a certain thing for my child. It was my interest, my hobby.
I love that so much. I did not know that about you.
Yeah. So it's a fun one. Finally, I just want to touch on asking for help, because I know for a lot of people, asking for help is really tough, whether that's asking your family, a friend, or if it's even asking for medical help. Sometimes we know our mental health needs some support. And so I encourage everyone. I think everyone could use a counselor to talk to. I think it's really important to find that third-party, unbiased person that can provide you tools, that can help see things from a different perspective and help you. So if you're really struggling with your mental health, I think it's definitely worth a conversation with your doctor, family doctor, and looking into what other options there are for you as a parent.
Ready for question 2?
Let's do it.
All right. So for question 2, we have, does autism look the same in every child?
Right. So there's a quote out there that says, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And what that means is everyone is different, just like in the world, right? We all are different. We all have our strengths. We all have our challenges, and autistic individuals are no different. So the best way to kind of explain is autism is a spectrum. And what that means is it's not a linear spectrum, it's a circular spectrum. And you can think of it as like a pie chart. And each pie piece is a different area of life. So there could be perspective sharing, or communication, or social interactions, sensory concerns, all these different areas of their life. And they might fall high on a certain category, and they might score low on a certain category, depending on where their strengths and struggles are. And so no two autistic people are the same. Now, it also depends on when you're talking to this person and where they fall on the spectrum. When they're children, they might struggle in more areas than when they're adults and they've learned techniques that have helped them. Or maybe they're high masking. And so, unfortunately, they've learned ways to hide those insecurities or those struggles. Not to mention the difference between male and female. We know that autism presents differently for each gender.
Yeah.
So it does look different for everyone. So recently I was asked by a parent of, can I support them because they felt that their child wasn't maybe autistic enough.
Oh.
And so I had to really break that down and explain that, just like I mentioned on the spectrum, we all fall in different areas. And so while that child may not struggle in areas of sensory or social interactions, maybe they struggle a lot more with their mental health because they've been high masking for so long that they've internalized all this. And therefore their mental health, they have high anxiety. They maybe can develop additional concerns such as depression or suicidal thoughts. Like, these are all things as you grow, there's the potential for. And so just because someone isn't autistic enough, we want to make sure that they get equal amount of support because every child deserves that support.
Moving on to question 3, what are some simple ways parents can practice guiding during daily routines?
Okay, so I like to always think of keeping it simple. So in everyday life, as a parent, you spend so much time with your child. You have multiple opportunities throughout the day to just start implementing little techniques here and there. One of the first things I recommend is slowing down your pace. So what we know is with a lot of autistic individuals, they need that little extra processing time, especially if you're vocally talking to them, you're using body language, maybe there's other things happening in the environment around you. Those are all things that they are having to process, and so we need to give them a little extra processing time. So by really slowing down your pace, providing them the extra processing time, you're giving them that extra little bit to completely understand and process what you're saying. Another great idea is using declarative language. So I recommend, if you have not seen our declarative language video, definitely check it out. We go into further detail on what declarative language is and how we can use it. We like declarative language because it provides the child the ability to think for themselves, and you get to be along with them for that. You get to talk to them in a genuine way versus asking them just direct questions one after the other.
Yeah, what did you say? Talking with them instead of at them?
Exactly, yeah. I like to look for little activities that you can do together. So a big one that we always look at for, especially for the younger kiddos, is like helping them or getting them to help us with our laundry. So, okay, we're gonna gather up all of our clothes off the floor and put them in the hamper. Why don't you grab all the socks and I'll grab all the shirts? You're giving them a role on what they should be doing. So they're getting that predictability. You're doing this together, so you each have a joint role in this activity, which is co-regulation. And you are then teaching them life skills. And who doesn't want to teach their kiddos life skills?
Absolutely. For younger kiddos, you said, what would the age range be, you think?
Well, it really depends developmentally. You know, we have some kiddos that at age 2, 3 years old, they can easily pick up a sock and put it in the hamper. Sometimes kiddos a little bit older, 8, 9 years old, still struggle with that. So it's all based developmentally. So it's important to recognize where your child is developmentally and meet them where they're at. And if you find that it is a little too challenging, we want to take a step back and meet them where they're at. So then we can scaffold them, which is a fancy way of saying you want to provide them with the tools to build them up to that level. So maybe the first tool is, let's identify which is the red socks and which ones are the blue socks. I always like to use car rides to my advantage because kids are in the car, you're in the car, what else is there to do? Sometimes you can really use this as great. I use it as RDI time. Like, I noticed there's a plane flying over there. Then you're observing something and sharing that observation with them. Maybe they start pointing out, hey, Mom, look at the red car. Oh, I see a red car. There's a blue car. you're experiencing this moment together. And so these are those little moments that you can just start implementing in your daily life. And they're easy. We want to find easy, simple ways that you can start connecting with your child. And then finally, I want to just point, even when you're in this, when like it's great when you're mindfully doing RDI or you're mindfully using declarative language. I really want you guys to be mindful of the moments that you're not purposely doing RDI. So in the sense, you notice your child might be thinking flexibly in the sense that, hey, we didn't have the blue cup available because it's in the dishwasher, so we have a red cup instead. And they're like, that's okay. We want to spotlight those moments. Even though we didn't do necessarily anything to scaffold them or build them to that moment, that still deserves to be spotlighted because they showed that they were able to flexibly think. And we always want to spotlight those moments to create those positive memory bank experiences.
Okay, can you tell me what declarative language is and why is it important?
Okay, so again, I'm going to plug in the declarative language video because it is very well done and detailed on what declarative language is. I'll give you a quick overview, but declarative language is a way that we can speak to one another, and it works really well with autistic individuals because you are removing the demand on them. It's a way that you can express observations or like experiences or feelings. It's a way that you can express this without your child needing to give you a specific response back. So by doing this, you're reducing the amount of pressure that's put on a child and therefore allowing them to create this like genuine communication with you. And that's what we want, is that back and forth dialogue that's genuine, not you asking them a question, they asking you a question, and that's not necessarily a genuine interaction. When you say, hey, I feel like I could really go for some ice cream. And then he says, oh, I love ice cream. My favorite is strawberry. Oh, I love strawberry too. That is a genuine communication, and that's what we're looking for. So some of the ways to remember is trying to reframe your words into declarative is we have a list of different kind of ways that we can phrase our sentences. I wonder, I feel, I think, I noticed, I'm not sure, but there's a whole bunch of them. The tough part is having to control yourself and stop and think about how to rephrase it and then rephrase it.
Absolutely.
The bonus is, like I mentioned, kids need that extra processing time. So while you're taking that time to rephrase your words, your child is probably still processing the previous thing you just said. So it works out well for everyone.
I heard that it was like 15 to like 30 seconds that they need extra processing time.
It's dependent on the child. A good rule of practice is start with like 15 seconds and see. And it can be hard because you feel like you're sitting there for 15 seconds, but it can feel like, but then all of a sudden you may hear your child respond in a way that you never expected, and you get kind of taken back by that, like, oh yeah, I guess maybe they do need that little extra processing time.
Yeah. Question number 5, what are some common misconceptions?
So one of the common misconceptions with autism is that autistic children don't want to connect. And it's unfortunate that that's what a lot of people think because it's very inaccurate. Autistic children, autistic individuals, they want to connect. They just want to connect on a different level than maybe what a neurotypical would want to connect with. So some of the ways that you can connect with your neurodiverse or autistic loved one is by connecting with them on their interests. So we know that neurodiverse kiddos love specific things. So they have their special interests.
Yep.
If you're able to get down to their level and engage with them, that is like the ultimate way of connecting with that person. And sometimes it can be hard because maybe you don't have the same interests as them, but having them teach you is such a special way for you and your child to connect. You will get so much out of them in that moment, that love, that connection, than you ever thought possible, because you're going down to their level and you are coming to help them find that connection in a way that they understand. So one of the other ways we can connect with them is by building a routine together. So it's funny, in my household, we each have our special routines with our son. So I do something in a certain way each night, and that's our special routine. And my husband and my son do their special routine. And my son gets so excited every night to do these routines with each of us. And that's our way of connecting with him. He finds that we are able to meet him where he's at, find something that we're both interested in, connect with each other. And it is such a lovely experience.
It's amazing.
One of the best things we can do is validate them, validate their experiences, validate their feelings. We may not understand it, but we need to validate that that's how they are feeling. So if they're having an overwhelming situation over something you might find trivial or not a big deal, reframe that thinking to, I understand that I may not understand exactly what's causing this, but I understand that they feel these intense emotions, and validating them. That I understand that this is really tough for you. How can I support you? Or if it's a younger child, just being with them and letting them use your regulation is a really helpful thing, because when kids aren't able to self-regulate, they learn through co-regulation. And so by borrowing your regulation, you're helping them learn how to regulate themselves. So another one of the misconceptions we hear is, well, my child hit all their milestones either on time or early. There's no way that they can be autistic. Or they're not going to have any problems when they get older because they've hit all their milestones. Well, I'm glad that they hit all their milestones. That's wonderful. And hopefully they do have minimal disruption later in life. But the one thing we do know is that there is no correlation between if you hit your milestones, if you're walking at 10 months, doesn't mean that you're not going to have sensory concerns later, or social struggles, or any number of anxiety or mental health concerns. There is no correlation. So that's why it's important that when we see kiddos that are deemed low supports needs, we still have to validate that they're experiencing things differently, and understanding that they are just as deserving of the support as any other child is. So it's really important that we acknowledge that, yes, we have some kiddos that are high supports needs, and they may need a lot of attention in certain areas. But the low support need kiddos as well also need those supports. And finally, I just wanted to touch a bit on progress, because I know parents can get defeated very easily when, they think, well, why is my progress not just going straight up? It feels like I'm taking 2 steps forwards and then 1 step back. And progress is not a linear line. It's so dependent on the child, it's dependent on the parents, and it's dependent on life. Life tends to throw us so many curveballs. And so as parents, it can be incredibly frustrating when we're like, oh, I'm putting all this time and effort in and it doesn't seem like I'm making any difference. I want to tell you, for myself as a parent who started the RDI program, I started using certain techniques and I felt like I was talking to a brick wall half the time. I was using declarative language, not getting any responses back. I was perspective sharing. He could care less, it felt like. And here we are now, a couple years later, and now all of a sudden, I still have consistently done it. And now, all of a sudden, he's like skyrocketing with his ability to perspective share. He's now telling me what others could be feeling and how my actions are affecting them.
Oh,
it's
so sweet.
Amazing. So I really want to stress that it's not linear. You will have moments of doubt, of struggle, but just stay consistent. The more you stay consistent, the more you will get that progress. Even if it's, your line's like this, it's still up. You're still heading up there. You're making growth. You're doing the things.
All right. So moving on to question 6, what is RDI and how is it different?
So RDI is relationship development intervention, and it's different in the sense that RDI is very much focused on teaching the parents. We want to help the parents become their child's guide. So there's a misconception that maybe RDI is just another therapy that gets your child to do certain skills. That's our only priority, is to make your child do X, Y, and Z. That's not the case. RDI focuses on guided participation. So we have parents and children working together on specific goals, and they're able to find strategies and implement strategies to help them create this co-regulated state. RDI focuses a lot on dynamic intelligence, which is that flexible thinking aspect, and something that is often not developed naturally with autistic individuals. It's something that needs to be taught and needs to be nurtured. And so that's one of our biggest things in RDI, is focusing on how do we teach our child to think flexibly, how certain situations may arise and how they can apply previous situations or knowledge to these situations, and just being able to think on the dime in the current situation. How can I approach this? We focus a lot, as I mentioned, on relationships. So the core of RDI is the relationship. We look at not compliance, but how to grow that relationship so that they're able to connect one to another and grow together. And then we also really focus, as I mentioned, on the parents. So our goal is to empower these parents so that they're able to implement these strategies. They're able to do these things in their daily life. They can help their child through these overwhelming situations, help scaffold or build them up when there's a goal that needs to be achieved. And so these are all the things that these parents are being taught through their RDI program, so that once they finish this program, they feel empowered that they can do these things on their own. So RDI focuses a lot on not necessarily normalizing the child. We want to meet them where they're at, and we want to be able to help them succeed, gain independence. Now, that may not be in a neurotypical way, but it's a way that protects their mental health, and it's a way that they feel empowered.
I love that. Love it, love it, love it. All right, moving on to question 7. What is your favorite success story or stories you've seen with RDI?
Well, I'm a bit biased, but as I mentioned, I started out as an RDI parent. And so my favorite story is my own. The fact that I found RDI and it aligned so much with my parenting values, the way that I wanted to raise my child. I'm a huge advocate on mental health, and I found the RDI program really aligned itself with my passion for protecting my son's mental health. And so when my husband and I started the RDI program, and we started learning all the different techniques and strategies, as well as the importance of this guiding relationship, we were able to see that, a lot of the times when although my guiding relationship with my son was wonderful, I turned into a quizzer. I felt communication with my child was by asking him questions. So I would, he'd come home from school. How was your day? What did you do? What was your favorite part? What did you eat for lunch? And not really understanding that was causing him to shut down, because his brain was just like, oh my gosh, lady, too much.
Overlord.
And so I learned about declarative language, and let me tell you, it was hard. It was really hard. I practice every day. I remember so many times starting a sentence and then stopping myself, trying to rephrase it and thinking, oh my gosh, this poor kid's not going to have any idea what I'm trying to say. But it's okay because I was making the attempts. And now it becomes it's a lot easier for me because I've been doing this for years. But it was such a cool thing to see when I first started using declarative language. And all of a sudden, he started replying back to me. And not because he felt he had to. He genuinely wanted to contribute to our conversation. And that was such a special moment. Again, with perspective sharing, when I started to use perspective sharing, and then he started replying back with his thoughts and his, what his observations were. It was such a special moment because it was not something as an autistic parent, you don't usually get to see that. And so when you do and you get those glimmers, it's like the best thing in the world, and you can't help but you want to see that more and more. So that gives you that drive, that oomph to really try to do more for your child.
Passion to just like get it done. I love that. Your story is so beautiful, and I just love hearing about it.
Yeah, it's been, and that's what's driven me to become an RDI consultant, because I saw how it worked in my life. I saw how it worked in my family, how my husband was able to start implementing these tools. I started implementing these tools. We were able to pass this information on to family members. So now, I'm teaching them about what an autistic brain kind of deals with in these overwhelming situations. Being able to explain it to another person so that they can see, oh, it's not that they're having a tantrum, or whatever the case is. It's them literally in that fight, flight, freeze response, and they are not able to rationally make a decision to carry on. They are in a survival mode. So these are all things that have been so valuable for my family, and so I really am excited to share this with other families as well.
Question number 8. What do you think is the biggest factor that causes anxiety?
Well, from someone who has anxiety, I feel like the biggest factor is fear of the unknown. So I have here the definition of anxiety. It says, anxiety is an emotional state characterized by feelings of worry, nervousness, or unease, often about an event or situation with an uncertain outcome. And I think that really encapsulates what anxiety is.
Absolutely.
That fear of the unknown. So that looks differently for each person, but sometimes we might have a fear of in social situations because we're not sure how other people are going to react, what they're going to say. We might have anxiety for new places because we don't know maybe where the bathroom is, where parking is. There's all these things that we don't know about. And so you get a lot of the times, I know for myself, I'll Google map a place before I go. Exactly. But for me, I'm like, okay, I need to know where the parking is. It helps my brain feel a little more in control of the situation. So it's important that we find those things. So with autistic individuals, we know that they have, a lot of the time there's a high anxiety. You get that more with the PDA profiles. So PDA is a pervasive drive for autonomy. And with a PDA profile is that very heightened need to be maybe in control. It's a high anxiety state where they need some sort of predictability. And providing predictability is so easy if you can. Whether that looks like first day of school. Okay, maybe the day before you go to the school and walk around the school, check out the classrooms, check where the bathrooms are, whatever that may look like, so that the first day of school, your child feels more prepared because they already have an idea of, okay, the bathrooms are here, the gym is over here, the library is over here, my classroom's right here. That gives them that predictability, and that can definitely ease a lot of anxiety for our kiddos.
Working with kiddos, them come in, we have our routine, go put your bag down, shoes off, let's go to the gym first, and just like having that routine and schedule, it's like it definitely helps them so much.
Yes, exactly. And so when there is those moments of maybe we can't go into the gym because whatever reason, that can be really hard for them because that break in routine, they've come to learn that predictability. So that's where you might see those overwhelming situations. The way I always like to think of it is like the what ifs. So we always call each other out in my house. We call each other out if we're playing the what if game.
Okay.
What ifs, those are always, hand in hand with anxiety. What if I'm out with my friends and I say something stupid and they laugh at me? What if I go to my friend's house and they eat different food than I eat, and I can't eat anything, and they think, that, they don't understand that I can't eat these things. There's all these what if situations, and so we like to just be mindful of them and identify, hey, I think you're playing the what if game. And that just kind of brings them back to that moment of, oh, okay, yeah. Or we try to reframe it into a positive. Well, what if you went to your friend's house? And what if they had different foods and you tried it and it was delicious and it would become one of your favorite foods? There's always that positive spin to it.
Moving on to question 9. What are your go-to techniques or tools that you would use when working with a child on the spectrum?
Okay, so video plug-in here. We have a video of how you are your parents or your child's best therapist that kind of goes over some more techniques. But I really want to recap on some of the techniques that I find most powerful, which is pacing. So slowing down your pace, whether that's verbally or it's, if you're asking them a question, maybe give them 15 seconds to respond. Or maybe it's just slowing down your daily pace. If maybe you find that you're constantly going from one thing to another, that can be dysregulating for you as well as your child. And so slowing things down and being more mindful and present in the moment is such an important factor. Again, we talk about declarative language, and we will always continue to talk about declarative language. Declarative language is such an amazing tool. It's such a great way to remove the demands on a child. Instead of asking them 1,000,001 questions, you can say, hey, I noticed this, or I'm wondering what, and fill in the blank. It's just a way that a child can feel like you can have a conversation with them, but they're not necessarily needing to give you a certain answer. If you say, hey, put your shoes on, well, yeah, there's only one thing for you to do in that moment. That's put your shoes on. But if you're saying, hey, we're going to be leaving the house in 2 minutes, I'm putting my shoes on now so that I'm ready to go. You're allowing them to autonomously make that decision.
No, absolutely, because they'll be like, oh, well, Mom's putting her shoes on, so why don't I put my shoes on?
Exactly. Another area to be mindful of is sensory. So we know a lot of our kiddos, they may have sensory concerns. And so being mindful of that. If you're going to be going to school, maybe make sure that they have headphones that they can pull out of their backpack, or fidgets to keep them regulated. These are all things that you can kind of give them tools before they experience these kind of more intense situations. So definitely be mindful of the environment is key. So we talked a bit already about the predictability, and I will continue to mention that because predictability is so key, whether that's visual schedules. So, having a calendar up in the house so that they can visually see what is expected of them that day. Maybe they have soccer practice, so you can put a little soccer sticker on the calendar so they can see, okay, Mondays we have soccer practice. Oh, Tuesday I have music lessons. And you can put a little music note. Or if they're reading, then you can just write what it is. In teaching them at a younger age how to use these tools is so good. It provides them the predictability, and it's allowing them the independence to do it on their own. So we can also give them roles. So maybe you're putting away the groceries and you say, hey, I'm going to put all the cans in the pantry. Can you put the frozen peas in the freezer? You're assigning them a role. Okay, his job is to take the frozen peas, put them in the freezer. That's his role. Or maybe his role is to carry the bags into the house. These are all roles that you can assign to the child. You can also give him choices. Would you like to carry the bags in, or would you like to put the food away? So you're giving him the autonomy to make that decision. But the important thing is, when you're giving a child the choice, you have to be okay with whatever the result is.
Absolutely.
So you can't say, hey, would you like to do this or this? And they choose this, and all of a sudden you're like, actually, no. Yeah, that's not going to work for you or for them.
Yeah.
So just be mindful when you're giving them these choices that you are okay with either one of the responses.
I have noticed when I have done role assigning, if they don't like the role that I gave them, I'll be like, okay, well, would you rather do this or this one? And then they end up liking it a little bit more.
Exactly. So one of the things that we always want to make sure that we're doing is, anytime you're setting yourself up for a new activity, a new goal that you're working on, something that is maybe a little more than what their current state is. We want to scaffold them, but we also want to make sure we are co-regulated first. If you start getting them to work on, say the goal was tying your shoe, and you're leaving the house and things are chaotic, you're heading to school, everyone's little, anxiety is high, right then it's probably not the best time to learn how to tie your shoes. Maybe you have a little more time in the weekend, and so you can try co-regulating before you try attempting to tie your shoes by putting your shoes on together, putting the left shoe on together, putting the right shoe on together. Then mom ties up her shoes, and then you can maybe try a little way of teaching him, okay, cross the, whatever. Co-regulating before you get to an activity is very important, so that you guys are both doing it together, or else it may feel a little one-sided and it's not going to make it's not going to be as efficient.
All right, moving on to our last and final question, question 10. How can I support my child in an overwhelm?
Okay, so here we will talk about the calm approach, and I've previously done a video on the calm approach, so definitely recommend you check that out. It goes a little further in detail. But to answer this question, when a child is in an overwhelm, we want to be mindful of the fact that they are not in a rational state of mind. So they're essentially in a survival state, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and they're unable to reach their executive function, which is their prefrontal cortex, and be able to make rational decisions. So if you as a parent have ever tried, well, your child is in, say they're on the floor at Winners screaming because you won't buy them a toy. We've all been there. They are in an overwhelming state. Their body, their brain is not able to comprehend and work through that rationally, and so they're in a survival state. So the first thing we need to do is to regulate, and that means you included. Step 1, make sure you are regulated. And I know it's so hard, especially if you're out in public. I have been there many times where I'm sitting in the grocery store in the aisle to the side, holding my child as he's screaming, because I know that is such an important thing for him, is to feel that he's regulating with me in that moment. So step 1, we're going to regulate. We're going to go nonverbal, or we're just going to really reduce our language. We don't want to be talking at him. We don't want to be trying to teach him all these things because he's not able to reach his rational mind. It's pointless at this point. It will literally go through one ear and out the other. So we really want to just focus on allowing him to use our regulated state. We can reduce the amount of sensory input. So if you're maybe at home and the lights are bright, there's TV playing, you maybe turn off the TV, reduce the lights so it's not so bright. That will help with the sensory load, and that will just make it easier for them to regulate. And finally here, we want to make sure we're not distracting them or redirecting them. And as a parent, I know very, very well how in those moments you want to make them stop crying. So what do? You give them something to play with. And what you've done is you just avoided the situation. We've not actually dealt with the actual root of why this child is dysregulated. We've just distracted them with something shiny. And so we need to allow them to feel their feelings in these moments. So in step 2, once we notice that their brain has come back online. Now I say that because there's usually a moment where, well, they're dysregulated, they're upset, maybe they're screaming, they're having that moment, and then all of a sudden kind of you can see like a flick of a switch where their brain comes back online. And it might look like they've regulated their breathing, they're making more eye contact, they're wanting to engage a bit more with you. Whatever it looks like, it looks different for every child, but most parents kind of know that moment where it's like, okay, they're back online.
And we're back.
Yes. And that's when you want to connect with them. And we do this by validating their feelings, explaining what their emotions are. So I can see you were really upset or you were really frustrated when I said no. And that's okay to feel frustrated so we want to give them 3 because statements. Because you really wanted that toy. Because your cousin has the same toy and you wanted to play with him together. The toy is the color red and it's your favorite color. By giving them 3 because statements, you're kind of teaching them that, hey, we're on the same side. I understand you. And it puts you guys in a state of like togetherness. Through validating them, you are also helping them regulate. Our nervous system likes validation. And so when we feel validated, we're not seeing things as much as a threat because we're valid. We're being on the same side as that person. They understand me. They're not threatening me. And so that's step 2. Step 3 is we now want to reflect. So we want to reflect on the situation. And this is when our strategies come in. So we have our next time strategies. So next time, we can have it in our mind of like, okay, we're going to the store, but we're not going to be buying. Already provide them that strategy beforehand. So we're not going to be buying anything. We can look at them, we can touch them, but we're not buying them. You're now giving them a strategy for the next time. Or maybe it's the next time strategy of someone taking a toy. Well, next time we can ask for the toy back. We can maybe grab a different toy to play with, or we can, we can find something else to play with, or I think I already said that. But anyways, you can find another strategy for them. So what you're doing is you're building up their strategy toolbox so that when situations happen again, as they will, they have some tools that they can reach into their toolbox once they're regulated and use those tools.
I love it because the next time strategy kind of ties in with predictability as well.
Yeah, it's all about the predictability. And so by having these strategies, you're giving them tools. So, and this also works with flexible thinking because maybe it's not the exact same situation, but that strategy can also be used for a similar kind of situation. And so you're giving them the tools to be able to think flexibly.